Hello, everyone. I'm Bonnie Low-Kramen, and welcome to #AskForTraining, the ROI that keeps on giving. Well, I am so excited to be presenting this webinar today because I happen to have some really great news about assistant training. One piece of great news is that there's never been as much training out there for assistants as there is right now. And the other piece of great news is that assistants are figuring out how to ask for training, and they are getting it. They are being told yes. So that is what I want to talk about today, and I want to talk through exactly how they're making that happen. This is super exciting for me because, for 25 years, I worked for the actress Olympia Dukakis as her personal assistant. That's our picture on the left side of the slide. And, from the very beginning of my work with Olympia, I was painfully aware of the lack of resources for assistants. Very few classes, no books that I could find. And it just seemed wrong that there were so many assistants out in the world and so few resources. So that led to me creating the workshop that I call Be the Ultimate Assistant. That's a 2-day learning experience that frankly is the experience that I wished had existed when I was doing my work with Olympia. That picture in the middle is of our New York City class a couple of years ago, and every single person in that photograph asked for training and was told yes. So it is a great, great time about. This is an image of the places that I've been in the last 8 years since leaving my work with Olympia Dukakis. After 25 years, I left and I resigned from one dream job to take on another, and that is to travel. At this point, I've been in 14 countries, and I've had assistants and managers in my audiences from over 40 countries. And I can tell you that, as much talking as I do, I listen twice as much. And what we see and what I hear is the burning hunger for training and for education. What I know is true is that there's never been a better time to be an assistant than right now. What I also know, though, is that there's never been a more complicated time to be an assistant than right now. And it is those complications that are driving this hunger for training. And, what I see is that assistants are busy Googling and doing research to find the training that is specific and relevant to them. And I am so delighted to help in that process, and so many others, trainers and leaders are doing that, like the amazing Lucy Brazier, and we all owe her such a huge debt of thanks as we all try to move this rock up the hill of education, and all to the benefit of our companies. This notion of providing and investing in the professional development for assistants is still a pretty new idea in 2019. Not as new as it was, say, 5 years ago, but it's still a pretty new idea for some companies, and a lot of assistants still have the experience of fighting for training dollars, and that's not okay. So that's partly what these webinars are about, to reveal what the facts are, and then you can decide from there how you want to proceed at your own company, given your own set of circumstances. What I can tell you for sure, though, as I move around the world, is that the complications of this workplace are not getting any less so. It's only getting more complicated, which is driving this need for training. So let's take a few minutes, though, to talk through how we got here. How did we get to this place? On the slide is an image of the typing pool from back in the day. Now, my own mother was a legal secretary, so I lived this experience. The way it used to be is that women would take a typing class and sometimes go to a school like Catherine Gibbs or Berkeley, and then after they have that course under their belt, they get a job and there they go. And there's your desk and there's your typewriter and there's your phone and that's it. And I'll see you in 20 years. That's how it used to be. And, frankly, there wasn't a whole lot of need for ongoing training, not like there is now. And that's partly what's changed. Um, you know, most of you most likely were self-taught, like me, right? Self-taught. We didn't get hardly any training. And if you're sitting there nodding and agreeing, then I congratulate you because you survived and prevailed and succeeded in spite of the lack of training, rather than because you've been supported in any particular way. You know the experience of winging it every single day and figuring it out. Um, I have to admit that if I were beginning my work today with Olympia Dukakis, I would fail. I would fail without supplemental education. Like it's winging it and being self-taught is not working anymore. The pressures, the demands of this complicated workplace are not conducive to winging it. As innovative and as much initiative as you will take, it still is a game changer to get training. So really, there's no mystery as to why some companies push back on this whole idea of training, because it's kind of a new idea and so historically, if there has been no track record of this, the danger is too many assistants will look at that and say, you know what, there's no point in asking. I'm not even going to ask because they've never done it before. Why should they do it now? And it becomes our responsibility to point out exactly why it makes sense to do it now. So welcome to the new normal. Here we are. We have assistants taking their seats at the table next to their managers, functioning as executive business partners. That's the term that is being used today for assistants who are valued and respected members of the LT, of the leadership team. And, I love looking at this photo because not so easy to tell who are the managers, who are the assistants. It could be any combination, and I don't really know the answer, but I really enjoy looking at this photograph and wondering, okay, so who's who in this scenario? In 2019, this work as being an assistant is no longer just a job, just a paycheck. It is a career, or it certainly can be, but only if we commit to lifelong learning, only if we commit to training that is relevant and specific to the roles that we're doing. So check this out. We're living in a world today with this plethora of technology and the advent of AI, artificial intelligence. Oh, it's coming for sure. AI is going to be as much a part of our work lives as the laptop computer, is a tool that we cannot live without. The fear, of course, is that AI is going to be taking all the jobs of assistants. It is true that AI will be taking over some lower level responsibilities, but essentially the need for the thinking human beings who can, predict and anticipate issues those people will not be losing your job. And AI will become our tool. So the job of the assistant today is to educate ourselves, is to make sure that if our companies are venturing into AI, like right this minute, if they're not, it'll probably happen 5 minutes from now, to read about it, speak to your IT department, your executives about how can you be involved, how can you know. Certainly better to get involved with these efforts at the baby stages rather than when it's fully developed. And that just, if you have an inclination towards that and you really like, tech and AI, it'll simply be another way to make yourselves more marketable and relevant to the business. So we need to not fight it. We know it's coming. We just need to embrace what's happening and face the reality of what's going on. All right. Um, all right. So what do you do when? So I've sold you. You're going to go get training. And so now what? I've already told you there's so much training out there. You're going to do what you do best, which is to research. You are going to investigate the different trainings that are available. Executive Secretary Magazine is a fantastic resource for trainings all over the world, not just in the United States, just not in Europe, but they're happening all over the world, which is so exciting. But I can understand how it's confusing, which one do you choose? So it's about beginning with your job description. Everything begins with the job description that you have that's accurate. I know so many assistants who say, oh my gosh, the job description I was hired in at bears very little resemblance to the one I'm actually doing. And I'm an advocate of you putting in writing your accurate job description, because everything stems from the job description. Your decision making about training, your leader's decision making about your salary and title, and promotability. So your job description should really be as detailed as you can make it. It should be really clear. It should be compartmentalized. And if it goes on for 4 pages, that's fine, as long as it's accurate and real and reflects what you're actually doing. Because that exercise will help you honestly assess where you need improvement, what needs tweaking in order for you to move forward into this next year. What areas do you need to improve upon? And it's not one size fits all, is it? What you might need in terms of technology training might not be at all necessary for another assistant who really could use a project management course, or really wants to expand their network. So they want to go to one of the conferences that is very large. Or, in Be the Ultimate Assistant, I wanted to create a more intimate learning experience. So we max out at 30 people. And, I'm sure it makes sense. We can do things in a room of 30 people that isn't possible in a room of 1,000. So it really becomes about you doing your due diligence about, what is the training? Who are the trainers? What is the content? Where is it? And how much does it cost? All of these factors, how does that fit into your executive schedule? All of these factors come into play. But here's the bottom line. We need the leadership of companies to understand the need for training, that we've gone far beyond the typing pool since being back in the day. And so an acknowledgement that training is necessary. And then B, an awareness that you need a voice in terms of what training you attend. Again, because it's not one size fits all, and who knows better than you. So it will be about making the business case for the training that you need. It's about, all right, you've gone through all of your research, and I certainly advocate talking with people who have been to those trainings. Any trainer will be happy to give you names of people to speak with who have attended, and do that on your own. My goodness, it's so easy with social media, but this is really important because this is your livelihood we're talking about. So it's critical to do an honest assessment of what is it that you need, not only for your own professional development, but what would be useful to the company as well. So once you have done all of that research and you've determined the class that you want to take, you've zeroed in on it, Then it becomes about making the business case, which I strongly recommend putting in writing. You're going to print out the materials from the class, and you're going to include your job description and essentially justify why it makes sense, what the ROI would be, the return on investment of you attending that class, whether you're going to do it online or whether you're going to get on an airplane and fly out of the country, because I can tell you that assistants are doing that. In your business case, I certainly hope that you will consider asking for an annual training budget. That's a trend that we're seeing. When executives understand the value of training, then what's happening is that assistants are successfully getting annual training budgets. It's your salary, your benefits, and this budget. At the moment, the average is about $5,000 per year. That, of course, you still have to make the case, but it becomes a given that you have that pot of money to pull from. And then you get to, be smart about how you utilize those funds. So that's a really good negotiating point. And then it's very important to know that your executive is sitting there thinking, what's in it for me? What's in it for the company? If I say yes to Linda, how is that going to help us? How will this be a great investment? So it serves assistants to use your empathy muscles and put yourself in your executive's place regarding what's in it for them if they say yes to you. You want to give them as much reason to say yes as possible. So what happens if they say no? That happens still. I'm aware of that. So if they say no, it's important to take a breath and hear the reasons why and see if they're valid. If a company doesn't have the money, then they don't have the money. That's a fact that you and your executive can speak about. However, I need you to know that some executives have said to me that they don't say yes the first time someone asks for training. Some executives wait till an assistant or a staffer asks a second or even a third time because they want to see how serious somebody is about this. Now, I personally hate that game playing. Aren't we all grown-ups here? But there it is. And several executives confirmed that they do the same thing, that they wait until someone says it a second time or a third time. What I want you to hear is to not take no for an answer, and that if it's no this year, to ask again next year, to not stop trying. This is your career. This is your livelihood. This is your life we're talking about. So it becomes about understanding how important is this training to your future. And you know what? If it's that important, I urge you to pay for it yourself. Sometimes executives are open to negotiation. You can say something like, well, I'll pay for the travel if you'll pay for the registration. How would that be? If you offer that, ideally they would pay for 100% of it. But if you offer to pay for part of it, that sends a really important message about, putting skin in the game, that you're really wanting to make an investment of your own money and not only your time and your focus and your energy. So that's important. And then we've had situations where an assistant has done that in year one, and then the benefit is so obvious to the executives that the next year executives happily pay for 100% of it. And I am really delighted to talk through any of this with you. My contact information will be at the end, but this is absolutely true stuff I'm sharing with you. Please do not take no for an answer. If it's no for right now, it doesn't mean it has to be forever. Cool? So I just got this email this week. I was having a conversation with Christy about training, about Be the Ultimate Assistant, and she was nervous about asking her executive for training. She's never been. The company does not have a history of offering training. And so I sent her a business case letter, which most trainers have, and I certainly have one for B2A. And I also sent her the Forbes article. Ultimate Assistant Training was featured in Forbes in May, and as were several other trainers in there. So you can Google that if you'd like. So off she went, and then the next day, this is the email I received. Thank you. It was so easy. I sent an email to my exec this morning to ask for training. He and I chatted about it this afternoon, and he's all for it. I'm so excited. All I had to do was ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. We've heard it before. It's absolutely true. I can tell you that, in general, women, because our profession is still 95 to 98% female, women in general, we haven't been trained to ask. We hope that we're going to work really hard and that our work is going to get acknowledged and valued, and that we get offered things like professional development. Unfortunately, that's not the way it's working generally. Although, now that social media has been a big part of this, there's more and more media coverage about it. Certainly the Forbes article is a great piece of progress in that area. The idea that Forbes magazine, a credible business publication, thought that training of assistants was worthy of a cover story. I mean, that, it's going to take way more than one article. Trust me, I know that. But it's a process of educating not only ourselves, but our leaders, our managers, our HR directors with the data. This is not emotional. This is not about feelings. This is about hard data about why it makes sense to send you to training. So if you want to learn more about training and how, more details about specific trainings that are out there and about B2A, etc., on my website, betheultimateassistant.com, episodes, a typo on there, but I'm going to let that go. 26, 27, and 28 are all about asking for training. Okay? So forgive me for the typo. More resources for you. The podcast I do with Vicki Evans is, filled with information to support you to do your work better, faster, easier, and it all happens much better when you get training. Please follow me on any of your preferred social media platforms, and I'm very eager to, offer resources that support you to do your work. And that's really what it's all about. And then, of course, I'm happy to come into your company and do training specifically for your team, which I do all over the United States and Canada and all over the world. I want to thank you for being here today. Hashtag ask for training, the ROI that keeps on giving. Your call to action is to start with your job description to fully evaluate what is it that you need in order to continue in your career and to build your career path and to think forward about, what is beyond your role, how can you expand your role, and that often happens with training. A project management course, getting your certifications in Microsoft Office, which Vicki Evans would be happy to tell you about. So the opportunities are so broad in 2019 into 2020. Contact me. I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Please check out Executive Secretary Magazine for lots more resources. And I just wish you well. I hope that I get to see you at a training very, very soon. Okay. Take good care. Good luck.